Hello there, welcome to World Panorama. I'm Ashwarya with you, and in the next 30 minutes, I'll be bringing you up to date with the biggest developments that unfolded in the globe this week that will shape our world, our future. Here is a look at the headlines first. Global concern escalates about environmental threat from raging record fires in the Amazon. Environmentalists blame a rising deforestation under Brazil President Jair Bolsonaro's administration. French President Emmanuel Macron calls for urgent meeting at the G7 summit. US President Donald Trump scraps the trip to Denmark after its leader rejects his idea to buy Greenland as an absurdity. Political brouhaha over the world's largest island due to its strategic location in the Arctic. Pentagon tests a cruise missile weeks after Washington withdrew from the INF treaty that would have barred the test launch. China and Russia accuse the US of stoking a new arms race. Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani promises to eliminate all safe havens of the Islamic State terrorist group following a horrific wedding attack in the capital, Kabul. Country marks a subdued centennial Independence Day. And South Korea scraps an agreement to share military intelligence with Japan. US expresses the disappointment, maintains intelligence sharing between allies regarding North Korea was critical. The biggest story this week, it is being touted as an international crisis. Global concern is escalating about the environmental threat from raging fires in the Amazon that have shown record fires this year. French President Emmanuel Macron says that G7 leaders should hold an urgent meeting about the crisis at their summit in France this weekend. UN Chief Antonio Guterres also said that he was deeply concerned by the fires. However, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro says that it was a smear campaign against him. Amazon is the largest rainforest in the world and is a vital carbon store that slows down the pace of global warming.
They are called our planet's lungs, and they are on fire. Thousands of fires are ravaging the Amazon rainforest in Brazil, the most intense places for almost a decade. The northern states of Roraima, Acre, Rondônia and Amazonas, as well as Mato Grosso do Sul, have been particularly badly affected. Brazilian Space Agency data says its rainforest has seen a record number of fires this year, an 85% increase on the same period in 2018. Amazonas, the largest state in Brazil, has declared a state of emergency. Apart from Brazil, other Latin American countries like Bolivia, Venezuela and Paraguay are also battling raging wildfires in their Amazon rainforest area. The Bolivian government has hired a firefighting air tanker to help extinguish wildfires. Extra emergency workers have also been sent to the region, and sanctuaries are being set up for animals escaping the flames.
10 días que venimos sufriendo el tema del agua y escapando con los animales de un lado a otro.
It has been 10 years of suffering, running back and forth with the animals in order to save them. It was hard to live. Me and my family trapped here because of the fire, risking our lives and our animals' lives.
Forest fires are common in the Amazon during the dry season, which runs from July to October, while they can be caused by naturally occurring events such as lightning strikes. Environmentalists say fires are a consequence of the increase in deforestation seen in recent figures. They are critical of anti-environment rhetoric of Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who they say has encouraged tree clearing activities.
Então, quando a gente desmatar mais de 20% da Amazônia,
When we clear more than 20% of Amazon, we are creating a more conducive scenario for fires and loss of vegetation cover. This creates a chain effect that can accelerate the process of destruction of the Amazon, which will be a tragedy for everyone.
vegetal e criando efeito aí em cadeia.
In response, Bolsonaro, a long-time climate skeptic, accused non-governmental organizations of starting the wildfire themselves to damage his government's image. He also says his government lacked the resources to fight the flames.
NGOs have lost money. Without money from Norway and Germany, they are without jobs. So what do? They try to bring me down, but what about them?
The Amazon basin is home to about 3 million species of plants and animals and 1 million indigenous people. And it is crucial in regulating global warming, with its forests absorbing millions of tons of carbon emissions every year. The fires have been releasing a large amount of carbon dioxide, the equivalent of 228 megatons so far this year, the highest since 2010. They are also emitting toxic carbon monoxide, gases that are being carried beyond South America's coastlines. French President Emmanuel Macron has said the record number of fires in Amazon rainforest is an international crisis that needs to be on the top of the agenda at the G7 summit. Our house is burning, he tweeted. However, Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro responded by accusing Macron of using the issue for political gain. Bureau Report, RSTV.
Greenland is not for sale. Denmark's Prime Minister has asserted. Her remarks came after President Donald Trump confirmed the US interest in buying the world's largest island, which is an autonomous Danish territory. However, after Denmark's Prime Minister rejected Donald Trump's idea to buy Greenland as an absurdity, US President Donald Trump scrapped his trip to Denmark. Greenland is getting attention from global superpowers, including the US, China and Russia, due to its strategic location and its mineral resources.
Greenland, the world's largest island. Located between the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. 3/4 of Greenland is covered by permanent ice sheet. The island is an autonomous Danish territory with its own leader and own parliament. However, the quiet-looking island is in the center of ownership storm these days. This after news emerged in Wall Street Journal of the possibility of its purchase by the United States. While the notion was initially laughed off as a joke, Donald Trump confirmed to reporters on Sunday that he had recently discussed the possibility of buying the world's biggest island, though he said such a move was not an immediate priority.
Denmark essentially owns it. We're very good allies with Denmark. We protect Denmark like we protect large portions of the world. So the concept came up, and I said certainly strategically it's interesting, and we'd be interested, but we'll talk to them a little bit. It's not number one on the burner.
Suddenly, the entire world was looking at Greenland. Wall Street Journal tweeting, President Trump made its name on the world's most famous island. Now he wants to buy the world's biggest. The world knew for a fact that 80% of the island is covered by a vast and thick ice sheet, which is melting at an increasingly rapid pace as a result of global warming. But no one paid much attention to its resources. While no oil has been found in Greenland, the retreating ice could uncover minerals and other resources that could be exploited.
Years ago, Harry Truman wanted to buy Greenland. Denmark owns Greenland. Denmark is an ally. Greenland is a strategic place up there, and they got a lot of valuable minerals. I don't want to predict it now.
Greenland is dependent on Danish economic support. It handles its own domestic affairs, while Denmark looks after defense and foreign policy. A defense treaty between Denmark and the US dating back to 1951 gives the US military rights over the Thule Air Base in northern Greenland. After Donald Trump's suggestion, Greenland's foreign minister said, "We are open for business, but we are not for sale." Denmark's prime minister, who was on a visit to the island, also said that the idea of selling Greenland to the US was absurd.
Greenland is not for sale. Greenland is not Danish. Greenland belongs to Greenland. I strongly hope that this is not meant seriously.
After Denmark's prime minister rebuffed his idea of purchasing Greenland, US President Donald Trump on Tuesday called off a visit to Denmark scheduled for early September. Trump called a Danish leader's statement on selling Greenland as nasty. He was scheduled to visit Denmark on 2nd and 3rd of September as part of a trip to Europe. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The US military on Sunday conducted a test flight of a type of medium-range missile that was banned by the INF treaty that both the US and Russia abandoned this month. The Pentagon said that it tested a modified ground-launched version of a Navy Tomahawk cruise missile, which accurately struck its target after flying for more than 500 kilometers. The test flight is intended to serve as a direct response to Russia's deployment in recent years of its own treaty-busting missile, that is, the Novator 9M729. The test off the coast of California on Sunday marked the resumption of an arms competition that experts worry could increase US-Russia tensions.
The US military conducting a flight test of a type of new missile on Sunday. The missile had been banned for more than 30 years by the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces, or the INF treaty. But after both the US and Russia abandoned the treaty this month, the US wasted no time in testing the missile. The Pentagon said that the missile blasted from a launcher on a Navy test site off the coast of Los Angeles and sped above the Pacific Ocean for more than 310 miles before hitting a target. The missile tested was reportedly conventionally configured, meaning it was not outfitted with a nuclear warhead. However, it is not clear what the Pentagon intends to do with the missile system and where it intends to base them. The test, however, marks the resumption of an arms competition that some analysts worry could increase US-Russia tensions.
Russian Foreign Ministry is paying close attention to Americans' actions in developing, making and deploying land-based intermediate and short-range missiles. Russia will respond with comprehensive measures to ensure its own security.
It is noteworthy that the US officially withdrew on 2nd of August from the 1987 INF treaty that banned ground-launched cruise and ballistic missiles with a range between 500 and 5,500 kilometers, accusing Russia of violating the treaty's terms. Russia in turn accused the US of violating the agreement and also announced its withdrawal. The treaty, first signed by US President Ronald Reagan and Soviet Union leader Mikhail Gorbachev in December 1987, had eliminated an entire class of nuclear weapons. After it was signed, the US and Russia dismantled more than 2,600 missiles. The weapons considered destabilizing to the European continent because of their capability to launch a nuclear strike from anywhere without early warning.
I am troubled by growing friction among the two largest global economies. We need to learn the lessons of the Cold War and avoid a new one.
After the withdrawal from the INF treaty, US expressed proliferating such medium and intermediate range missiles in Asia, their deployment in Asia as a deterrent to China. China has threatened countermeasures.
China will not stand idly by and will be forced to take countermeasures should the US deploy intermediate-range ground-based missiles in this part of the world.
Despite the alarm and warnings from experts over arms race, Pentagon says it will likely do more tests. Russia also recently tested a new cruise Skyfall missile that, however, failed. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in World Panorama, we'll take a very short break. And coming up after the break, we look at why South Korea on Thursday scrapped an agreement to share military intelligence with Japan and why the US has been disappointed with the development. Stay tuned for that big story and much more. Welcome back after the break. Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani has promised to eliminate all safe havens of the Islamic State terrorist group as the country marked a subdued centennial Independence Day following a horrific wedding attack in the capital Kabul on Saturday. Ghani's comments on Monday came as Afghanistan mourned the death of at least 80 people in the suicide bombing at a wedding reception for a young couple from the minority Shia community in western Kabul. At least 182 others were also wounded in the attack, with women and children among the casualties.
A wedding celebration in Kabul turned into horror and carnage after it was targeted by a suicide bomber. The bomb blast ripped through the packed wedding hall, killing at least 63 and injuring at least 180. The bridegroom said his bride survived, but his brother and other relatives were among those killed in the attack. The groom, Mirwais Elmi, says he has lost hope after the deadly attack. He recalled greeting smiling guests in the packed wedding hall only to see their bodies carried out hours later.
We were wearing green cloths for nikah, and the nikah ceremony was almost finished when the blast happened. I've lost hope. I've lost my brother, my friends who came to join my wedding party.
The Islamic State group has admitted carrying out the bombing. An IS statement said that one of its fighters blew himself up at a large gathering, while others detonated a parked explosives-laden vehicle when emergency services arrived. The attack took place in a district populated mainly by Shia Muslims.
It's even not safe for people to attend a wedding. Those innocent children came and end up dead. You cannot imagine the feeling. It's too tragic.
Sunni Muslim militants, including the Taliban and the Islamic State group, have repeatedly targeted Shia minorities in Afghanistan. The Taliban, who are engaged in peace talks with the US, condemned the attack. President Ashraf Ghani described the attack as barbaric. He blamed the Taliban for providing a platform to the terrorists. Afghanistan's chief executive Abdullah Abdullah described it as a crime against humanity.
The targeting of our people in such events like wedding parties, schools, mosques, markets and public places indicates the atrocity of a terrorist group who is determined to kill the innocent people. Taliban cannot absolve themselves.
The bombing by Islamic State comes even as Taliban and US representatives have been holding talks in Qatar's capital Doha, and both sides have reported progress. It is noteworthy that the US has about 14,000 troops in Afghanistan and is part of a NATO mission there. Donald Trump administration has been pressing to pull the US troops out. However, no peace deal has been agreed with the Taliban so far. The deal would include a phased US troop pullout in exchange for Taliban guarantees that Afghanistan will not be used by extremist groups to attack US targets. But Islamic State is not part of the peace negotiations. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And here is a look at some more international news stories in Global Buzz. The annual G7 summit, also known as Group of Seven, is being held in France from 24th to 26th of August. Hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, the annual meet will be attended by 7 state members, including France, Italy, Canada, US, Japan, Germany and UK. And this year, Macron has also invited non-member countries who are playing an important part in world politics. The invited guest nations include India, Australia, Spain, South Africa, Senegal and Rwanda. Some of the important world leaders, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Donald Trump, Justin Trudeau, Angela Merkel, Shinzo Abe and others are a part of this G7 summit. French President Emmanuel Macron has announced inequality as the major issue of this G7 summit. Thousands of chanting Hong Kong protesters joined hands to form human chains on Friday in a peaceful protest, with almost 3 months of anti-government demonstrations showing no sign of let-up across the Chinese-ruled territory. Demonstrators, families, young and old, some people masked, some using hand wipes to stay clean, linked hands across different districts as others held up banners thanking overseas nations for supporting freedom and democracy in Hong Kong. And US President Donald Trump has hit back at China for announcing new higher tariffs on imports, escalating a mounting trade war between the two nations. In a series of tweets on Friday, Donald Trump announced an additional tariff increase of 5% on imports from China. The move came hours after the president hit out at the Chinese plans to hit $75 billion of US goods with duties. Donald Trump described their action as politically motivated and has accused them of taking advantage of the United States. His furious reaction came after Beijing announced new tariffs on US goods. South Korea has terminated its intelligence sharing accord with Tokyo, known as the General Security of Military Information Agreement or GSOMIA. The pact was first signed in 2016 and is automatically renewed every August. It is chiefly aimed at countering North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. The US played a key role in initiating this hard-won pact known as GSOMIA, which facilitates a three-way intelligence sharing. This is the latest tit-for-tat move, and it follows Japan's removal of South Korea from its list of favored trade partner, a dispute that has hit diplomatic and trade ties.
Ties between Japan and South Korea further go south. South Korea terminated its military intelligence sharing pact with Japan. The intelligence sharing agreement, called GSOMIA, was due to be automatically renewed on Saturday, 24th of August. However, South Korea decided to scrap the agreement. Japan called it a complete misjudgment of the current regional security environment. It is noteworthy that Washington had pushed for the pact 3 years ago, in part to help track North Korea's missile activity.
Japan created a grave change in the environment from bilateral security cooperation. Under this situation, we have determined that it would not serve our national interest to maintain this agreement.
South Korea's latest tit-for-tat move comes after Japan removed South Korea's favored trade partner status and also imposed export controls on its important electronics sector, prompting a similar move from Seoul. The latest tensions stem from a South Korean court ruling last year that ordered Japanese companies to pay compensation to South Koreans over forced wartime labor. However, several Japanese companies refused to comply with the court order that angered many in South Korea, with people boycotting Japanese goods. South Korea, however, says it was ready to talk.
We hope that Japan will play a leading role together in facilitating peace and prosperity in East Asia, while it contemplates a past that brought misfortune to its neighboring countries.
The tensions between Japan and South Korea go back over 100 years. South Koreans want reparations for atrocities committed by Japan during its occupation of Korean Peninsula and exploitation of its men and women during World War II. After a treaty in 1965 that restored diplomatic ties, wherein Japan provided more than $800 million in financial help, in 2015 too, another deal was signed, where Japan apologized and promised to pay $9.5 million to fund victims. However, South Korean activists are not happy with the deal, and President Moon Jae-in, elected in 2017, also suggested the deal be altered. The historic dispute rumbles on. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And finally, one of New Zealand's top lawmakers is getting international acclaim after he was filmed cradling a fellow lawmaker's baby during a debate in Parliament. Trevor Mallard, the Speaker of New Zealand's House of Representatives, smiled as he held the baby and fed him with a bottle while presiding over a parliamentary session. So take a look at these heartwarming visuals as I take your leave. I'll see you next week with another edition of World Panorama. Bye-bye.